As the farmer heard a tumultuous clamor emanating from her chicken coops following a severe storm, she braced herself for the sight of frightened and jittery birds. However, as she cautiously unlatched the coop, she was confronted with a scene that surpassed her wildest imagination. Kimberly embarked on her first solo farming journey, a bittersweet experience as it came in the wake of her parents' passing just a year earlier. Although she had grown up on the farm and possessed a deep understanding of its operations, there was a stark contrast between being a farmhand and assuming full responsibility for its management. The weight of this realization settled upon her rapidly. Throughout her life, Kimberly had formed an intimate bond with the farm animals, some of which had been companions since her own childhood. However, there was one exception: the chickens. For some reason, they seemed uneasy in her presence. Perhaps it was due to the constant presence of Dusty, her faithful feline companion who had been gifted to her on her 12th birthday. Dusty had been Kimberly's steadfast sidekick, providing unwavering companionship throughout their shared years. Although age had somewhat slowed her down, Dusty remained a loyal companion to Kimberly, brightening her days. The other animals adored Dusty, but the chickens remained wary. Due to this strained dynamic, Kimberly assigned the task of tending to the chicken coop to one of the farm workers, preferring to minimize her direct involvement. Dusty's presence, on the other hand, provided a comforting reassurance amidst the farm's transitional period, as she symbolized a lingering connection to her family. Thus, Kimberly was devastated when Dusty inexplicably disappeared for an entire week, a behavior entirely out of character for her beloved feline friend. In the past, she may have gone on her own mission for a day or two, but a whole week was very unusual. Kimberly tried in every spare moment to find the poor kitty, but she was drowning in work and admin. Then one day, Dusty just reappeared, waltzing in like she owned the place, which she did. She was unscathed, well-fed, and perfectly normal or so. Kimberly thought the only difference she could note was that Dusty was being even more affectionate than she usually was. This wasn't entirely unusual, and Kimberly just put it down to the fact that Dusty had missed her one fateful week. Just 2 months after the incident with Dusty, a horrific storm rolled in. The warnings were being broadcast on all possible platforms in an effort to get the farmers ready for what was coming. There were reports of there being hurricane-like winds and hail, so everyone was scrambling around to prepare. Kimberly and her team got all livestock inside their enclosures and reinforced the structures as much as they could. The last thing she needed was to lose her livestock or have excessive damage come to the farm's infrastructure. Dusty seemed to be on her own mission that week, so Kimberly let her be. Thanks to her absence, she could approach the coop on her own and check for any issues. The chickens, like the rest of the farm animals, seemed to sense the storm on its way. They were quite worked up, but happy to be safe in their coop. Kimberly ensured that the doors were fastened well and that there would be no issues. When the wind came through, happy with the state it was in, she then went on her way to check the rest of the farm. Sure enough, just 3 hours later the storm rolled in. It was much worse than they anticipated. Kimberly and the staff had to make their way into the storm bunker beneath the house. It was only when they were all in that they realized Dusty wasn't with them. Kimberly went straight into a mad panic. How could she have left her best friend out during such a dangerous time, knowing that there was nothing she could do? She simply hoped that the clever cat had buried itself somewhere safe. Little did she know where Dusty really would end up. They were in the bunkers almost the entire night. Thankfully, though, due to all their reinforcement, nothing was in an irreparable state. Everyone was absolutely exhausted, but there was still work to be done. Everyone was allocated an area to check. It was essential that everything was in order before anyone could rest. So they set off in their relative directions on a mission to get everything done as soon as possible. Kimberly also kindly asked that they keep their eyes open for her. Beloved Dusty, she had still not caught sight of her at all. It took almost 4 hours before everything was set. Again, Kimberly just needed to check the chicken coop. It was fairly close to the house, so she left it as her last task of the day. She just didn't anticipate what she was about to find. As she neared the coop, she began to hear a large commotion coming from inside Kimberly. just put it down to the fact that the chickens were angsty to leave their enclosed space. So she hurried to the coop and wedged the doors open with a tool. She stuck her head inside and waited for her eyes to adapt to the darkness. As her vision came into focus, she was met with a peculiar sight. Indeed, there was a massive huddle of all the chickens in the far corner of the coop. They were clucking hysterically on lock. Toward the other corner, there was something on the hay floor that caught her attention. One chicken was sitting comfortably next to the mass, simply staring at it. When Kimberly came to realize what it was, she couldn't help but let out a scream. There, lying amongst the hay, was her beloved Dusty. Motionless next to her were 3 little kittens in the same state. Unbeknownst to Kimberly, Dusty had been pregnant, a fact she had failed to notice. Tragically, Dusty had passed away while giving birth to her kittens, who, to Kimberly's dismay, also did not survive. The mysterious circumstances surrounding their presence in the coop left her bewildered and utterly distraught. Overwhelmed by the devastating reality, Kimberly fled from the coop, desperately seeking an escape from the harsh truth. Exhaustion engulfed her, further adding to her emotional turmoil, and she eventually succumbed to its weight, retreating into a restless sleep. Upon awakening the next day, Kimberly's initial instinct was to search for Dusty, only to be reminded of the heart-wrenching events from the day before. With a heavy heart, she mustered the strength to rise and make her way back to the coop. To her surprise, the chickens were already freely roaming, indicating that the staff members had attended to them. As she peeked into the coop, Dusty's body was nowhere to be found, but a note left by one of the staff members informed her of the burial location. Grateful for their consideration, Kimberly couldn't help but feel perplexed by the absence of any mention regarding the kittens. Determined to find answers, she hurriedly sought out the staff member who had buried Dusty, hoping they could shed some light on the situation. Their response, however, left them just as bewildered and confused as Kimberly herself. Kimberly was perplexed as they shared that they hadn't seen any kittens and questioned her well-being. Doubt crept in momentarily. Had she imagined it all? No, she was certain she had seen them. Rushing back to the coop, Kimberly swung open the doors wide. Despite a thorough search, the 3 little kittens were nowhere to be found. However, something caught her attention. The chickens in the coop were gathered in a corner, fixated on a particular hen sitting on her nest. Driven by curiosity, Kimberly climbed into the coop and approached the nesting hen, disregarding its annoyed clucking. To her astonishment, she discovered the 3 little kittens beneath the hen. The motherly bird had been keeping them warm, explaining their stillness the night before, mistaken for lifelessness. The brave hen had unknowingly saved their lives, sheltering them with her own body. A profound warmth enveloped Kimberly's heart. Though her cat was no longer with her, she found solace in the presence of these little kittens. Gathering them gently, Kimberly decided to take them to the farmhouse, and to her surprise, a determined hen followed closely behind. With a smile, Kimberly realized that together, they would provide the sweet kittens a promising chance at life. We invite you to share your thoughts and reflections on this remarkable tale in the comments section below. How would you have coped with the loss of a beloved companion? Would you have considered exploring uncharted territories in search of solace or unexpected bonds? We value your insights and eagerly anticipate your contributions. Thank you.